sometimes a second book in a trilogy can kind of suffer from this weird dip in pacing where you're just sort of waiting for us to get to book 3 for the finale. That did not happen here. Golden Sun is the second book in the Red Rising trilogy that then turned into a series, and it was so good. If you don't know what Red Rising is, I feel like my best description that I can give for it is that it is the Hunger Games set in space, but as we move into book 2, there is no more Hunger Games aspect. We really are more fully involved in the overall society, almost like if Katniss had actually infiltrated the Capitol more fully, sort of the way Finnick did. That's, I feel like, my best comparison. The top of our society is called Golds, and our main character, Darrow, is at the bottom of society, and he has to infiltrate the Golds. Golden Sun picks up a little bit later. There is sort of a time gap between the end of Red Rising and Golden Sun, and at this point, Darrow is in the academy, and he's been studying war for the past 2 years. I don't want to go into anything that could be a spoiler, so if you have not read both Red Rising and Golden Sun, it is now your time to exit. This was quite the time jump. I did not expect us to be gone for 2 years. When Darrow says that he hasn't heard from the Sons of Ares for 2 years, I was a little bit surprised that he wasn't losing it more than he was. He's in the academy learning as Augustus's Lancer. They are doing like these war games and basically furthering his education from book 1 Hunger Games, but at a grander scale, where he's also working with people in all different colors, which was really interesting to see how they all sort of cohesively worked together. Particularly, I really liked seeing the blues. They would just sort of like plug into the ship and they were very cybernetic. Is that the word that I'm looking for? But these war games, at first I was picturing, you know, in the Avengers when all the gold people, and they're sitting in their what am I describing? They're little fake pods and they're like playing sort of like a video game, and when their real ship gets blown up, their screen goes black and they're out. That was not the case. We were like playing, practicing, fighting against another student, I believe. We're getting all these messages like, you know, the ship's about to be blown up and who can we save and how many people are gonna die and all this stuff. And I really believed that we were in a similar simulation, that there wasn't actually going to be any real hit. It was like Battleship or something like that. But these simulations that they do for the academy, for school, people actually die. But everything is still controlled. That was the craziest thing, is that the Golds view these lower colors as so disposable that they're allowed to lose them in a game. And then Darrow, because he's very angry about losing and all of the crew members that he's lost, he gets into this single person missile and he's like, I'm gonna charge myself into the enemy ship. And I was like, when we get there, what are we doing? I just didn't understand the thought process there, but I think it's just because he was so angry. And he has these, 2 years of tension built up from never hearing from these people who were, supposed to be his backers. And so I can understand where a lot of his anger was boiling up from. But because of this, because he's a gold and he's too valuable to lose, the people running the game shut it down. Like, they shut down his personal space pod situation so that he can't go and actually hurt himself and actually get himself killed. We know that Augustus is planning to let him go as a Lancer, which would pretty much make him a free agent, and he's waiting to get drafted by another house. But the problem with that is, now that he's not under the protection of Augustus, House Bologna is going to go after him and they're going to kill him before he can pretty much be under the protection of another house, because he killed Julian in the passage and nobody's over that, apparently, even though every single scarred gold had to go in and kill or be killed, which I understand that they're sad about losing Julian, but at the same time I was like, y'all signed up for this. We feel like all this information is going to come to a head at the gala when he's going to be officially let go. One of his friends is like, don't worry, like, I'm going to figure out how to get enough money to buy you, because theoretically, like, House Bologna could just pay for him and then kill him. In between, we go meet the Jackal. Reminder, the Jackal is Mustang's sister and Augustus's son, who he is not very proud of. When Darrow goes to meet him, he has to go undercover because he's going into like an area where golds just aren't really there, and so he dresses up as an obsidian. And the Jackal is like, do you want to form an alliance with me? Absolutely, I do.
Do you want to form an alliance with me?
Absolutely, I do.
Good. Excellent. Okay.
Because the Jackal isn't getting money from his family. His plan is to start a program where low colors can pay him to rise through the ranks, which my understanding is that they would be paying him to be carved and to become a different color. And he also plans to kill the Sons of Ares because, first of all, the Sons of Ares would completely ruin this business model he set up for himself. And also Pliny, I'm not sure how to say his name. He's like Augustus's right-hand man, but in the way that like Jafar is a right-hand man. Like, he really wants to sort of cozy up to Augustus and become his heir. And that very well might happen if Pliny can take out the Sons of Ares. The Jackal is like, I want you to be the face of, the gold to take out the Sons of Ares. And I was like, that is ironic, isn't it? At this meeting, Evie shows up. Evie, who we haven't seen in 2 years since he got carved. She is there to kill Augustus. I don't think that was originally part of the plan this early on. I think this is more of a rogue choice from her, if I'm remembering correctly. It's not that Darrow's softened towards the Golds, really. Like, he has friends among them, which is hard for him, but he sort of needs that final push to be like, I'm gonna go into this gala tonight and bomb the whole thing. The way that Evie does this, I was wondering when this was gonna come back up. She shows him footage from Eo's hanging. Now, he's seen this footage hundreds, if not thousands of times, which is horrifying. But she has the audio enhanced so that she can hear when Io says to Dio, her sister, that she was pregnant right before she got hanged. And that was horrifying. And obviously, like, this is a whole new spiral of depression and anger for Darrow, which is sort of the emotions he needs to go in and do this job correctly. And as he's going to go bomb this entire party, he finds Roke, who he has been friends with for a while. They're talking, and Roke would rather, read than go to this gala or whatever. And then all of a sudden, like, his eyes get really big. It's because he sees Darrow coming with a syringe to knock him out, which I was happy because I didn't want Roke to be killed. Like, I did at this point like him as a character. And instead of killing all of these families, because all the most important families are there, but instead of that, as he's like making the motions towards doing this, he's very perceptive. Like, I love Darrow's character. He's kind of talking to himself in his mind, and he's like, you know what? These people, like, attacking them isn't going to be as effective as, like, not necessarily psychological warfare, but sort of like civil war, turning these people against each other. It's not enough to just have the one guy from a family that nobody knows. They need to turn on each other because they have this really specific balance of power going on. And to do that, he tells Augustus, he's like, let me make you king. And he challenges Cassius, and they're going to be having a duel. And the thing is, over the past 2 years, Darrow has been training with Lorne, who is Shifu from Kung Fu Panda. So beforehand, when Cassius had once, like, literally almost killed Darrow, now Darrow is a better fighter, and he is about to kill Cassius, and the Sovereign, who I do picture as the Gold Lady Ruler from Guardians of the Galaxy, stops everything, which is not supposed to happen. Like, even the Sovereign is not supposed to stop one of these battles, especially after the terms are agreed. And the terms were to death, but the thing is, the only reason she allowed that was because she expected Cassius to win. This sort of shows her hand, that she is favoring the Bologna family, which theoretically the Augustus family is like #1 spot. So the fact that she is favoring the Bologna son sort of shows that she is ready to move that family up in society. So because Darrow did this and sort of unveiled that plan, Augustus has allowed him back into his family. But now it's complete chaos. Everybody's fleeing and trying to get out of there because they recognize that, like, civil war has started. And they are literally, like, hunting each other. That's how Darrow describes it, is that he sees people, like, prowling around, hunting other families. Darrow gets taken to the Sovereign. Fitchner shows up to keep Darrow under house arrest. Reminder that Fitchner is Severo's father, and he was also one of the proctors at the games. And he takes Darrow to go talk to the Sovereign. And she makes him play lie detector. It's so creepy. She has this box, and she's like, we're gonna play this game, open the box. He opens the box, and these two, like, snake scorpion situations come out of the box, and they have these, they have the poison. And she's like, here's how the game works. We're gonna have these two things on our hand, and we're going to, tell each other truths, and if one of us lies, we get stung. In theory, the poison is not deadly for most people, but it is incredibly painful. Obviously, Darrow has a lot to hide, so we're kind of anxious at this point, but we learn a lot of little important things. But specifically, Darrow asks, were you gonna let House Bologna take over that first position? In order to do that, she was going to let them kill Augustus. And when he asks her about that, she denies it, and then she gets stung. So obviously, that was her plan, to have Augustus killed that night. And the Sovereign wants Darrow to be part of her house. And luckily, we didn't go down that route. I was like, I don't want to hang out with this lady for a whole book. Luckily, Mustang has infiltrated the Sovereign's house, which I forgot. So earlier, when we're walking into this party, we show up and Cassius is with Mustang. And at that point, I was like, I cannot believe what I'm reading right now. I was so upset about that, but I mean, she was pretty much only with him for survival purposes. She could sort of see what was going on. She's like, to secure my family, I'm gonna need to attach myself to the Bologna family. And the way she did that was through Cassius, but that part just... Anyway, back to the Sovereign's house. She's infiltrated at this house, and the Sovereign really likes her, but luckily Mustang is still on her side, and once Darrow gets there, she brings the Howlers in to get him out. And as they're making their grand escape, they get caught, but they have the grandson of the Sovereign, and that is kind of their only bargaining chip. And it's so sad at this point, because the Sovereign has her main warrior lady with her, and we've got the grandson. And she's like, he's your only bargaining chip. You have one bargaining chip. And she says it in a weird way, and Darrow barely registers it before they kill Quinn. Reminder that Roke and Quinn are sort of a thing. And so they have to get out before the Sovereign can kill any more of his friends, because he realizes, she can kill all these people that I'm with, and it's still, I still wouldn't kill her grandson, because he would still be the only bargaining chip for the people who are left. So they escape as quickly as possible, and they have the Jackal, and the Jackal's on the ship that they're escaping on, and he's trying to heal Quinn, but it's sort of a lost cause. This is the first mention we get of Roke being, fully broken as a person. Mustang tells us multiple times throughout the course of this book, hey, don't trust my brother. Maybe don't trust my brother. I know y'all have an alliance thing, but you don't need that anymore because you have me now. I don't like the Jackal. I didn't realize how bad he was. I was like, this guy's just kind of sketchy and flaky, but no, he's actually evil. But this whole time, I was like, I also don't fully trust Mustang. It wasn't even till towards the end of the book that I even liked her at all. To be honest, I know that Darrow likes her, and that's the only reason where I'm like, okay, I want Mustang here, but I just didn't like her as a person. I feel like we also don't know her as well as we should know her at this point in the book. This whole time I was like, I don't know, between the two of you, should we choose the Jackal? Should we trust Mustang? Because I don't fully trust either one of them, but the Jackal's more unhinged. So that made me sort of, I guess, feel like he was less calculating as a person, when that was not the case. Also, an important note, a string that we're getting throughout the story, is that Darrow is putting other colors in charge of stuff. When he gets his ship, he asks the Blues, who's gonna pilot this thing for me? Who's gonna be the leader of this ship? Nobody understands why he's doing that, because overall Golds just give orders and everybody else follows it. There wouldn't be anybody else making decisions, let alone a Blue. We see that later when Darrow gives one of those blades that is meant only for Golds to an Obsidian. Even his friends have a really hard time accepting this, because outside of Severo, they still definitely have their Gold is best biases. And so having a Gold do this over the course of the book is making people sort of question Darrow. I don't think a lot of them really knew enough to question whether he'd been carved or not, but it is making them question his decision making and his leadership. What I want to talk about the most is the final end battle / end scene, because it was so upsetting. We are going to fight the Sovereign, and things are looking up. We have our squad together. I had a good feeling about this, and I feel like Darrow did too. And we go in, and immediately upon trying to enter towards the Sovereign, Stuff gets blown up everywhere. And it's such a horrifying mental picture, but well written, where we're like falling. All of Darrow's army is just like falling into this giant river, and he's stuck in this pod situation. And he's like, I am basically in my own coffin now. And he is going down in the water, and he's watching all of his friends falling, and he's like, they're in their own pods, like realizing this exact same thing, and it is terrifying. I was feeling very claustrophobic, and he's talking about how the water is just getting darker and darker with blood, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was nightmare fuel. Then Darrow has the bright idea. He remembers being in the mines. He's like, if you're stuck in the mines, the reason you have a sling blade, one of the reasons, I mean, there's pit vipers or whatever, but one of the main reasons that you have a sling blade when you are down in the mines is so that if you get stuck and you realize you're about to die if you're stuck in there any longer, so you can cut off one of your own limbs and escape. And he is like, I have to do that now. And I was like, no, you don't. Like, let's figure something out, please. I did not want to read this at all. But he does it. He has, like, the blades that they use are really interesting because I think, like, they're like a sling blade, but they can, with electrical current, slice down. And so that's what he does to his own arm. Oh my gosh. And I think it's here, but it was so painful to read because at first he only gets down to the bone, like he gets through the muscle, but only down to the bone, and he has to go all the way and kick it off, and it's horrible. But because of that, he's able to free himself and free some of his friends. And he continues going. This must be a gold thing because he does mention at one point that he's starting to feel dizzy and lightheaded and all this stuff. And I was like, yes, because your arm is gone, you're gonna pass out soon. But he continues to fight for another 30 minutes.
I have been falling for 30 minutes!
It was wild to watch this. And I was just, suspension of belief, he's a gold, whatever. He leads them out, minus several friends. They also, side note, have to sneak by, so they have to take off their armor. Great idea. And try to infiltrate where the Sovereign is. And Darrow, stupidly, climbs over the wall and drops down. I'm like, great, Darrow. Thanks for that, because he is, immediately captured. The Sovereign is there. There's one funny moment in this book, and that is when Darrow is like, who needs hope when you have a grenade? But it doesn't work out the way that he wants it to. I was like, oh, okay. The Sovereign tells somebody to kill Darrow. And they're like, let's record it because we need to have this on recording. And Fictional, who was really annoying during this book until this moment, was like, let's not kill him. Please? He's like, we can use them elsewhere or whatever. And at this moment, Darrow catches it before I do. He's like, oh no. Because Darrow was technically his student. Fictional doesn't want him dead. And then the Sovereign is like, actually, Fictional, you do it. At this point, Karnas randomly charges Darrow, and Darrow kills Karnas. So Karnas is Cassius's older brother. Insert more fighting, and then Fictional gets Darrow out of there. Fictional is Ares, which we find out. And then Darrow is under sedation, I guess, for a week while he's healing from this whole ordeal. When he wakes up, Mustang is there. Mustang does not know about the Sons of Ares. And, neither does any of our friends, except for several, sort of. But he and Mustang sort of finally have their moment. And I feel like throughout the whole book, there's this other girl, Vitra, who's super into him. And I was glad that nothing came of that, really, because I didn't like that as a relationship. I like Vitra as a person. I think she's kind of funny. But overall, I did not want that relationship to end up being a thing, and I was glad it wasn't. So now, Darrow and Mustang are sort of a thing, and he keeps telling himself, it's about time I tell her that I'm a red. And I was like, perhaps not. Maybe let's just keep this secret forever. I was so concerned the whole time. I was like, Darrow, you're gonna do this, and she's gonna tell Augustus, because she has told us on multiple occasions that she is willing to give up everything to protect her family. We find out that the plan for the overall rebellion is that Darrow's going to get adopted by Augustus, because at this point Augustus is seeing Darrow sort of as saved his life, and he wants to adopt him as a son because he doesn't like the jackal and his oldest son is dead, and that would make Darrow the heir, because also Pliny got killed in there somewhere. And theoretically, that means he's also gonna get married to Mustang. So Darrow is like, before I do this, I need to go home and see his real family. It was really intense emotionally, because like seeing his mom, I felt so bad, because Darrow has now become so used to being a gold that when he sees his mom, she has apparently also had a stroke, and it's just really difficult for him to go back and watch the Reds struggle. And he's like, at one point, like, this was my whole life, and now it seems so small. Everywhere he goes, he's like, there's no color, there's no nothing, because he's so used to the gold life. His mom's a grandma, and like Dio married his older brother, and it's just I didn't love going back and seeing all of that. I didn't like the conversation with Darrow's mom, to be honest, and I think it's, I think it would have also not have hit super hard if he showed up and his mom was just like, oh, doting over her son. But at the same time, like, it was really nice that she recognized him as gold. He walked in and she was immediately like, that's my kid. And she, he tells her everything basically, but she tells him, like, I didn't really like EO that much. And I was like, why are we bringing this up? And she's like, I feel like EO is like kind of manipulative sometimes. I do think that, I don't know if this is like a theme that's going to come up or not, but of like this sort of setting up, heroes and like immortalizing people and only seeing the good things in them. Now, I don't know if she would like Mustang or not, because Mustang doesn't show up to talk to mom because Darrow gave her, I don't know, a hologram, whatever, explaining who he is and what he is. She watches this thing, and we think that she takes off. She doesn't. She goes to talk to Darrow, and they still, I don't know if they're a couple or not. The way that they just, I don't like their relationship right now. I think that's it. But anyways, Mustang didn't yet turn Darrow into her dad, but I was like, it sort of felt like a matter of time. It sort of felt like we couldn't trust it. And we're having this conversation, but then Roke shows up and he's like telling Mustang not to move, and Darrow's like, don't kill her, like, I don't want that, even if she's going to tell. Like, he's really putting everything on the line for her. Fast forward a little bit to Roke poisoning him with a ring, and I was like, are you kidding? Like, Roke, the Jackal put him up to doing that, and then Cassius walks in, and I was like, I don't know if I was reading this part too fast. I was like, are we in league? Like, Jackal and Cassius, are they together? Because the Jackal is obviously pissed at his dad, because he's like, you have this son sitting here waiting for your approval this whole time, and then he comes clean and he's like, actually, I killed my oldest brother, your favorite son, and then he kills Augustus himself, and I was like, this is so much happening all at once. And obviously, like, now we realize why Mustang was like, do not trust my brother, he's crazy. And then Cassius shows up while Darrow is like knocked out on the floor. Like, he can hear everything, he's conscious, but his body will not move. And Cassius walks in and he's like, I can't kill you because I know what you are, and we have to take you to get dissected. And he's like, I'm gonna go kill Severo, who, by the way, we find out his mom is red, because Fitchner fell in love with a red girl, and she was carved so that she could be able to have a gold children. And apparently that's illegal, but Severo was born anyways. And I was like, oh, is this why everyone like jokes about him being like kind of small? Because he's half red. But anyway, and he's like, I'm also gonna go find and kill Mustang. And I was like, why do all of our friends have to die in this book? Because Cassius is definitely gonna get somebody. And I feel like it can't be Mustang because she's the love interest, so I feel like it's gonna be Severo, and I'm gonna be really upset about that. At this point, Victra is also killed, and I was like, I know that she wasn't the love interest, but like, really, did we have to do that? Because I feel like she was kind of fun to be around. And also Lauren gets killed, so we don't have our Shifu anymore either. And then to top it all off, we are given a box, and inside the box is Fitchner's head. So like, a lot of our allies are dead and or missing. Darrow is going to get dissected. This is a hard book. I don't understand, because I love the writing in this book. I love the writing in this book. I loved it in Red Rising. Like, I really enjoy this series, but it is difficult in the way that there is not a romantic arc that I'm enjoying right now, and there's also not a lot of bright, joyous spots, which this story doesn't call for it, and I understand that, and I'm gonna continue to read it. Like, I'm really enjoying the series, but I need a breath. Like, I hope we get it in, what's the next one? Morning Star. But I'm so lost as to where we're going. And after reading Red Rising and watching Darrow get carved, I'm not super interested in watching that happen again. If he's gonna be dissected by the Sovereign and Cassius and Jackal and whoever's on their side of things. I do not know how to rate this. I feel like it's really good, but it is very much setting up for what's coming next, because I feel like we're at just such a low point, which makes sense for book 2. But I'm having a hard time reading this, probably because I freaking finished this thing like 20 minutes ago and it hasn't marinated yet. My favorite part was probably anytime we saw the Howlers. I do love that as like a found family situation. I would love to know your favorite part and what you think about Mustang specifically, because I usually really latch on to the romantic part of a story and I just am not feeling it. So let me know what you think about her. Please like this video if you liked it, click subscribe if you want to talk about more book stuff. My name's Caitlin, thanks for watching. Bye!